Mas a língua é o inglês. Sim, 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 sim. Okay. So, may I, Bruno? Okay, okay, okay. So, I will take the mask for now. Can I? Okay. Okay, so welcome to our conference. I'm very, very happy to be here. It's a long time that we were not together in a face-to-face meeting. So we are very, very enthusiastic with everything, very, in a way, also very emotional with the opportunity of being together and not only doing this by a virtual medium. So I will just to explain what is going to happen in this opening session. It is very, very start in and end very, very quickly. So first I will just introduce in a brief, in the very brief time, I will introduce the project that brought us here, and also the cost action that we have here, also people from the cost action and people from the project. And then we will see a video minute that will show a kind of an installation that we did on the city for outdoors with some questions, but in Portuguese. I'm sorry. We had no time to put the subtitles, but we will do it in the future. But it's only a minute, and I think we will all understand what the main issue of the film. It's only 1 minute film. And then Professor Pedro Costa, who is the director of DINÂMIA, will also give us some words. And of course, our Dean for Research, the Professor Isabel Salavisa, will open in more official terms this conference. So I will just read a few words. So as the principal investigator of the Middle Class Mass Housing Research Project, which is a project founded by the Fundação para a Ciência e Tecnologia, and also as a chair of the Cost Action European Middle Class Mass Housing, I declare the Optimistic Suburbia International Conference officially open. So we did it the first edition of this conference in 2050, I suppose. So it was 6 years ago. Also here in ISCTE, it was a small meeting at the time. Some of us were together already. And so it's with a great pleasure that we have now a much huge group and a much bigger network. And it is, of course, with great pleasure that I welcome you all. The preparation of this conference has been a long journey, and I'm glad we have got so far, overlapping all COVID-19, sorry, limitations. And here I also want to thank you to two persons in particular, to Leonor Silva Matos is here with us. She's doing everything. She's our researcher, but she's doing everything in supporting this meeting and the conference, and also to Beatriz Charazina, which is our PhD student. She's not here today, but she also has been a very good help. Without Leonor and without Charazina, everything would be impossible. So I thank you personal to you both. And then for that, I first and foremost should thank ISCTE, were represented by the Professor Isabel Salavisa, and also DINÂMIA'CET-ISCTE, were represented by Professor Pedro Costa. And lastly, our organization team that support us. The main theme of this conference has been brought up by some of the big issues that we as a team have come across in recent years. For instance, and these are some of the questions that we have in the very short movie. How were neighborhoods that are now home for the middle classes built? Is there specificity for these neighborhoods in Lisbon, but also in other European cities and countries outside Europe? Why were these large housing states that were developing the city the places where the middle class from the 60s onwards preferred to live. Is it middle class self-conscious, and does it itself reflect it in an architectural and urban configuration? Does the middle class recognize itself as an identity? So we have several debates, especially with our colleagues from social science, that of course they never agree with us what we can establish as a middle class, but we would also have these debates and discussions with our colleagues from other countries that also don't agree with our concept of middle class in terms of architectural and concepts and neighborhood concepts. So I think it will be very, very interesting to attend the sessions and how we have and how the different research approach the subject. So there are some of the topics, these are some of the topics we challenge the lecturers to address. And for that, we have had over 60 communications proposals, and we'll have over 100 participants. I think it's very good, in terms of the situation where we are living now, from all over the world. More than 15 special speakers will come with different perspectives on housing. It will be a full schedule and a truly, we hope, working sessions in a hybrid format. That, as you know, is still an innovation. So I'm a little worried as chair how it's going to work, being here and at the same time people are at home attending and participating. We'll see, especially the debates tomorrow, we'll see how it works. But of course, I ask you for be patient with us and not very demanding. We'll see. Please do participate and be as generous, as interested as you have been so far, and it will be a very fulfilled couple of days ahead. So once more, thank you very much. I'll ask Bruno if he is able to receive. Oh, okay, sorry. Our desk staff is able to see our short.
Os outdoors que vemos na rua fazem parte de uma campanha que é o resultado de um projeto de investigação que procura compreender como é que foram construídos os bairros que acolhem hoje a classe média em Lisboa, noutras cidades europeias, mas também em países fora da Europa. A ideia era exatamente perceber se há uma especificidade nestes grandes conjuntos habitacionais que foram construindo a periferia da cidade e onde a classe média, a partir da década de 60, preferiu, de alguma forma, alojar-se.
Falamos de temas atuais, fraturantes, se a habitação é acessível para as classes médias, se conseguiu dar resposta às questões ligadas à pandemia.
Se a classe média se sente confortável nas periferias que elegeu, se a classe média se vê e se revê numa configuração arquitetónica e urbana, se a classe média se reconhece como uma identidade.
After this very, very short introduction in Portuguese, so once more I apologize for that, but I think everybody understood more or less the topic. I will ask Professor Pedro Costa to just give us some words. And once more, we are very grateful for DINÂMIA for having us.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all. And on behalf of DINÂMIA'CET, we welcome to this Optimist Suburbia 2 conference, and I think the second of many. We in DINΑMIA'CET, for those who do not know us so well, we are a research unit that is focused on change, on socioeconomic and territorial change. And we are marked, I think I can say that, by a very interdisciplinary approach to this change and to the problems of contemporary societies, and not just the contemporary, but to societies and to economies and to territories. And we are used to these discussions and these debates that Anna was raising, and people that do not agree, but that's the way we can go forward in the knowledge about this society. It's on these discussions and these debates, and we firmly are convinced about this. And for us, it's very important and very interesting, very important. And we are very pleased to welcome here this conference, because it's one of the purposes of this conference is exactly that. And when we think on this theme, and what was raised in this video was particularly visible in terms of this. We are talking about middle classes, we are talking about houses and these mass housing complexes, we are talking about suburbias, we are that are seen in a very different way across the world and across the different disciplines. But they are completely impressive and visible in the cities, and particularly in cities like our country, but they are many times invisible in academic research, in architecture and urbanism, and in many other areas. And it's very important to put them in the center of in the focus of the analysis, and put it in a very transdisciplinary approach, like these projects and this set of projects and this program of research is doing. And doing that also in a comparative perspective, that is what you have been done, and you are also doing in this cost action, for instance, talking about what happens in Lisbon, in Macau, in Luanda, in Antwerp, in Milan, and many other cities. And so it's very interesting for us to raise these impossible dialogues, but these needed dialogues between all of us with a conference like that. And for that, I give my compliments to the organization, and thank you very much to you for organizing this in our institution. For us as DINÂMIA'CET, as a research unit, is particularly interesting also because it's a work that is a long-term work or a medium-term work that represents, on one hand, a research team that is built through the years and that is being fed in around a set of different research projects. And I compliment here this team on Hannah, but it's with all the persons that are with Hannah on this, but also because it's crossing different research projects. Some are funded by our Science Foundation, others are funded by other means, for instance, this cost action that is led by this team also. And so it's a very good example of how to structure and develop a research. And I'm also very happy to host this conference here because of that. So I was promised to be brief. just want to thank you to the organizers and to all of you in the person of Anna here, and also thank to the technical staff of DINAMIA and all the people that are supporting the organization of this conference. And that is very challenging, as Anna was saying, and we are already asking you some patience for all the problems that can arise or not. We hope not during these days. And of course, we wish for a very fruitful debate on these 2 days. And of course, they will be very interesting. And we hope that we can all follow this, be it here presentially, as we are all happy to do after these lockdowns, and for the ones that can not do that at home by video and by Zoom and whatever. So thank you very much, and it is very nice to welcome you here in ISCTE and in DINAMIA.
Thank you, Pedro. And now we are going to listen some words from our professor, Isabel Salavisa. So thank you very much, Isabel, for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me. And on behalf of ISCTE, I want to welcome you all. And it's a pleasure to have all these people here attending in person. And I will not speak about COVID-19. ISCTE is a small-sized university, a public small-sized university with over 10,000 students. Most of them are at graduate studies. the majority. We have 4 schools and 8 research centers. One of them is DINÂMIA'CET. We cherish a lot research. It is one of the goals, one of the main aims of the university is to develop research integrated with teaching, of course. And we also cherish a lot multidisciplinary work. So it is a pleasure to have here a kind of multidisciplinary example of research. And another main target, it is to deepen internationalization. And so it is an honor and a pleasure to be here in this event that is integrated in a cost action that we coordinated through Ana Vaz Milheiro. She is the coordinator of the cost action. This initiative is part of a research project hosted by ISCTE, the principal university in this action, through DINÂMIA'CET, and is funded by the Portuguese Research Council. That the name of this research council is the Foundation for Science and Technology. But the cost action is funded also by European funding, right? Yeah. So we cannot forget this. This initiative gathers partners within academia from very different geographies, and feeding and the sharing and the joint production of knowledge. So the Congress is also co-organized. That's why I had to mention the European funding by a cost action. So it is twofold, I would say. And aims to create and to nurture a transnational network gathering European researchers. But not only European researchers, right? No. Not only European researchers. The Congress intends to broaden this network, and therefore ISCTE did not hesitate to embark on this initiative, recognizing close connections between its topic and many of the research and teaching activities that we host, that take place in our departments and research units and schools, and namely within architecture, urbanism, sociology, history, and international studies, among others. This is a partnership with University Agostinho Neto in Angola, Universiteit Antwerpen in Belgium, and the Politecnico di Milano, Italy, as well as the Docomomo Macau and Docomomo Angola. It represents a way of affirming ISCTE's interest in extending our collaborations with the international research community, namely in what concerns, and mostly in what concerns, architecture and the transformation of the territory, public works and decision-making, socioeconomic reflections and impacts, archival work, legacies and identities. I hope that you enjoy these days and you can meet people and work together and establish new connections, and that you have a pleasant time here in Lisbon, in case you are in person, and in case you are online, that you enjoy the conference, and anyway you can establish new links and nurture links with researchers of all these countries and universities. Just a final word. ISCTE is a young university, and we will celebrate next year our 50th anniversary, 50. So we are a young university as well. So many thanks and enjoy and have a nice time here working and connecting and so on, enjoying. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to start our opening conference. And I would like to thank you to Pedro Costa and Professor Isabel Salavisa. And so we just move on for the next
next session.
Next session. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I just will present. Should I present here or there? Where should I present? Onde que eu devo apresentar? Okay. Okay, so again, let's start the conference now that we have just the introduction. So first of all, I would like to say that we will have 2 days. Well, this is the first day, we have more 2 days full of sessions and round tables and presentations, whatever, and conference and so on. So today we'll start it with this main conference that will be held by Carlos Antunes and Désirée Pedro from Atelier, and I will present them very, very briefly. But before that, I just want to say that we will start it working tomorrow at 9 in the morning. I hope I will not mistake the program. 9 in the morning with a conference online by FAUL. Unfortunately, she was not able to come because of this pandemic crisis, but she will be with us online. And then in the morning, we will have the sessions dedicated to the project, so the middle class mass housing project. So the researcher will present the main outputs of the project in the morning. And as you know, the project is, I'm the chair of the project, but Inês Lima is the co-chair, so the co-chair or the vice chair of the project. And so we will divide between me and Inês, we will divide together these more formal presentations, I will say. I'm not very formal, I'm not more informal person, but anyway. So in the morning, we will have these research presentations. And then after lunch, we will start with the parallel sessions. We will have 2 blocks before the coffee break and after the coffee break. And we will have 11 sessions, different sessions. We are coordinated by different people, and also we will have 2 specific sessions tomorrow and the next day, one dedicated just dedicated to housing in Portugal. This session will be in English tomorrow, but I think the next day will be in Portuguese. I'm sorry for that, but we will have someone to translate it during the session. And tomorrow also, after the parallel sessions, we will have, so in the evening, 6:30, we'll have a round table coordinated by Ana Silva Fernandes, dedicated to mass housing in Mozambique, with also several investigators from Mozambique and from Italy and Portugal. The last day we have a similar schedule. So we started with Paul Bocani, the first. Sorry. Okay, sorry. And then we will have the sessions dedicated to the project before lunch. Sorry. I should maybe I just said that. So sorry. And then yes, that's better like this. And then in the afternoon after lunch, we will have again the parallel sessions. And in the end, our last conference. So the conference will be the last conference, the big session, big conference, you can say, will be done by Uta Pottengatz from Delft University, and then we finish our works. So I just wanted to to just introduce our program more or less. So related to today, I don't have a formal introduction to Carlos and Désirée, so I want just to thank you both for coming, for accepting being here with us today. It is a huge pleasure to have you here. And of course, we invite the architects because we don't want to lose the main focus we research for the discipline of architecture. So in order to move forward in architecture, so we always want to the architects to be with us within the academic field and with just for us not to lose the focus and to dialogue in a way always with the discipline. So for us, it's very, very important to have here in our starting first day in our open conference to have two architects who are in the field, just facing the problems of being an architect every day. And it's more and more important if you realize that Carlos and Désirée, they come from not from the main cities in Portugal, but in a very small village near Coimbra, called Miranda do Corvo, and so they will be able to give us a very different portrait of what is being an architect in Portugal, working in the periphery of the periphery. It is really very exciting because usually you think of architecture as a very urban profiles, and you'll see that Carlos and Désirée are exactly the opposite of that. And so it's with very, very, very pleasure that I have you, that we have you here both today. Both Carlos and Désirée were graduated in the University of Porto. No, they have. I will not read the biographies because they are involved in several projects. Carlos is also a professor in Coimbra in the faculty in the Department of Architecture in the Faculty of Engineering, Technical Engineering. I should know, but it's my husband's university, but I never know. So he's also a professor. They also Carlos and Désirée are involved as the curators of different exhibitions involving transdisciplinary studies, arts and architecture, mainly in arts and architecture. And well, we are from the same generation, and it's an honor to have you both here today. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and well, I look forward to listen to you. Okay, so without more delays,
se funciona. Apontamos para onde? Well, maybe I can start by saying thanks. It's really an honor for us to be here with you. Of course, a privilege. Maybe what we will show to you is not exactly what will be the main subject of your talks during these 2 days, but well, in a way, something can be done. And of course, I would like to thank, really thank to Anna, who remember to inviting us, and Leonor was always present, helping us in preparing this conference. Understand? I will try my best in English. For sure, it would be much better in Portuguese, but I will try to do what I can. We live in a small village called Corvo, as Anna told to you. That is the reason for the name we choose for our office, Atelier do Corvo. This village is a suburb of Coimbra with an evident lack of urbanity. It's a suburb of a suburb, suburbia. The word itself contains its main significance, and for that reason, its main problem. Suburbia, suburb, subcity. To solve it, we need to bring herb, city, urbanity to suburbia. And this is what we have been doing in the last 25 years. We are focused on the purpose of bringing urbanity to suburbia, peacefully and silently. Suburbia is much more than housing or dwelling, as you all know. To convert suburbia into city, we need to invest in public space. In this presentation, we will show different kinds of projects that express this idea. Small squares, transformation of obsolete houses into new housing programs and public buildings, housing for mental illness, housing for regular people, and our own house. We will start with the smallest of all the projects, Rocio de Cima, a square in front of our home. In fact, it was a small gesture, taking advantage of the opportunity created by the sanitary works. We persuaded the mayor to build a new pavement in granite cube, construct a wood bench and a brass fountain, redesigning the old one. Immediately, local people start to use the space as a new square. Miranda do Corvo Market. This was an obsolete structure not suited to the new health and safety conditions. This building is especially important in socio-economic terms for the inhabitants. We saw in this refurbishment an opportunity to give scale and urbanity to the building and the public space surrounding it. This is what we found. Despite having a short budget, we decided to spend a part of it creating a new level, embracing the old market with a new function, a business center and 2 major rooms for cultural purposes. And this is on the left, you are seeing on the left or right? Well, maybe, yes, on your left, I guess. The proposal on the right, what we found there. It was a very simple proposal. Please, next. Here you can see a section of what we found and what we propose. This kind of new scale of the building, this kind of ring on the first level, giving scale to the place. A model. What we found, what we did. And we also reuse the same solution that we show in the square, this granite cube to design everything, walkways, ramps, stairs, and of course the pavement. And taking use of these huge trees, we only designed these small benches for people to use it, and more, this was a space where nothing happened. In fact, people start to use this as a center of the city. Next, please. This is one of these spaces for cultural programs. And the other one.
The plot area of the market belongs to an old farm called Yellow House. In this current area that you are seeing, we are building a school of music. In this area exists a main house and the farm support buildings. This was the main house. It was in very bad shape, and inside it was in ruin. Another one. And the walls that define the area, really define the area. And for us, it was very important to open and to create public, making this private area into public area, working in connection with the market. I don't know if it is left or right. You can see, I think. One of the plans is what exists, and the other is the proposal, our proposal. We use the pre-existing plotting area and especially the design of the farm support buildings to create the new building. It's an impluvium with classes around this courtyard and a rehearsal building, not connected only by the upper floor, by a bow window, because between these two buildings there's a street, a public street that exists at the ground floor and connects the market, the sidewalk of the market, with another street, small street that is not so used. In this section, we show the house, the old house. What we did, we had to demolish all the ruin, but kept the ceiling and the structure that it was able to stay. And our idea was to turn the stairs in an element that connects all these rooms for private classes in a public, more public space. And also we have an auditorium, an exterior auditorium for rehearsals. This is the connection of highs and the street between those two buildings. This old house is going to have also a public cafe and a terrace in a slightly below level of the street connecting with the market. This is a model of the existing building and the farm support area. And this one is our proposal. Study models. And the impluvium, the courtyard with the classes around. The rehearsal building and the connection with the bow window, the corridor. And these are images of, they were taken this Monday of the corridors and areas for study, public study, because this area is not for the upper level that connects to rehearsal room, is not for classes. It's open to the kids that go there and don't have a space for study. This is the attic, and we, in spite of have to demolish the other levels because they were not proper for the classes and they were not they were a ruin, in fact. But we tried to keep all the structure and keep the memory of this space
and with this gesture also to redesign, for instance, those windows that you see outside. They have that shape, but inside they were transformed and were not connected with this form. And this is the open auditorium, open air auditorium. One of the image is in the moment, taken Monday, and the other, it's a collage of what we expect it's going to be the auditorium. And for us, it's very exciting, the idea of creating a space where children can play outside of school, or also they can have concerts there, and they are connecting, they create a special atmosphere, and they are connecting with the public. This is plot area of Blue Horse, is the name of this association for mental illness. This area is in the suburb of Coimbra, Safares. The plot had a big slope, and the build need to have 1,500 square meters. And this is located very near suburban house with no special qualities. And we decided to build in the top of the plot and visually connect the roof with the level of the street, reducing its visual impact. This is what something is missing here, but never mind. Okay. This is the north facade. And we defined a kind of excavated space between retaining wall and the building facing south, allowing the sunlight to achieve the interior. And this is a courtyard where people arrive to the building. The building is supported by pilotis in the north facade due to the slope of the terrain. Because this is a house for an entire life, for us it was very important to create space, surprise, and singularities. The entrance of the building. Gymnasium is a space, a common space. Social areas, main corridor, and Claudito's room, one of the residents. This building is also for mental illness, is in Condeixa, another suburb of Coimbra. This is an institution with a large complex of buildings for mental illness. This building that you have seen is Bentumeni residence. The project consists in refurbishment, a new reception, administrative areas, and a new chapel. This one not built yet. For us, what was important in this building was to bring scale and urban representativity to the building. Here, this pergola, it's very important reference for us because it was the reference model for the whole project in the structure that gave the order, the module to the building. And the project consists and creates a reception space, especially everything is around that. It's a space inside square that allows access to the main level using a ramp. This is the level of the square. And in the minus level, there are changing rooms. In the upper level, administrative areas and the chapel. the pergola that connects the two buildings. In the ground floor, we decide to make special apartments for flats for independent senior citizens, that they still can have their life and have permanent medical assistance. And also in this area, open to public, not only residents, we have gymnasium and other medical office, and the residents in the 3 levels, upper levels. The corridor for us, it's an open space, it's an open public, it's a public space that the residents have. Sorry, we are not very coordinated here, but this is the gymnasium and the flat. And the chapel, this is a model where we studied the light. For us, the chapel was a very important piece of the project because it closed the building, the connection with the street, and it's a public building. This chapel is public, so it was a pity that it's not built, but we hope it's going to be someday. And these experiments with the skylight were important to define the form and also to create the cross, because this is a Christian chapel that is designed with that light but not seen by the outside. This is a view from the street, the square, the entrance, the main entrance, been to many. You have start seeing this image, and the reception. This is the main entrance. I don't know if you can see that sentence carved on the concrete, but is a sentence that we choose because it was made from the founder of the congregation, Bent Many, and it means a person is worth more than the whole world. And as I said before, the corridors of the residents are the public areas of these rooms. This is a residence for mental illness and is the common area where they can stay and live most of the time when they are not doing treatments. And in each corridors at the top of them, there are bow windows. And these are the funeral chapels that were made.
Well, we'll talk about private houses. This is a house. This house is spotted in the Chest historic villages, Gondramash in Serra da Lousã, and it is in fact a weekend house for an artist. It's really a small space, about 7 by 7 square meters, and with a very short budget. What we did was very simple: an open space with this kind of box where the rooms or the private area are, a kind of box suspended by the ceiling facing the landscape. Please. This is what we have, this village, this historical village in the middle of the hills. And this is what we found there, a ruin and a neighbor house with a scale that we really would like to use as reference, not so much as language, but as a reference in terms of traditional constructive system. But what we propose was in fact something with a contemporary language. Please. All the houses have this kind of courtyard in between the street and the house, and we design and define this in the same way. This is, I can see very well, but this is the ground level that works in fact as an open space. Next, please. And this is this kind of box suspended by the ceiling where the rooms are. The rooms are really small. They are about 2 by 2 meters, I guess. Just a place for people to rest. Next, please. This is what I was trying to say. So we have a similar volume, but a completely different language, much more adapted to the way we live nowadays. And this is a section where you can see precisely what we try to do. This mid-level entrance, people can go up to this wooden box where the private dependents are, the rooms, and this open space. And those are images from the upper level. The access in front of the stairs that go to this balcony that faces the landscape, the corridor of the rooms, and one of the rooms. Casa Falcão-Meireles. This is another house. In fact, for us, it's a little bit difficult to talk about this house because this is one of our first projects. We really liked this project. It was really important for us. It begins almost 20 years ago. Yeah, something like that. Time runs in a village called Pereira, a small village next to Miranda do Corvo. We found this is the house where José Falcão, a very important Portuguese Republican, lived, and we found this plot very well defined with these stone walls and with these farm buildings connected to these walls. And we really would like to design a kind of new landscape, taking advantage of this farm constructions in a way that we propose a lot of courtyards, and this house works all around these 7 different courtyards, creating this new topography. And this is one concrete model that we did. So we reuse this kind of farm houses, I don't know the right name, and the new house itself on the top of the plot, connected with this older buildings. In the middle, you can see what we found, and on the right, what we proposed. And here you can see the relation with the slope again, the relation between the courtyards, where people can see the courtyards through the interior of the house. The same idea. The same idea. The space in between. And this is the last picture, because in the end it wouldn't work so well with the guys who order us the building. But there's a huge irony, because 2 months ago they sold the house to a French architect who decided to buy the house because he really liked the project. It's nice. 20 years after. Next, please. Another small house in the center of Miranda do Corvo. It's about, again, 6 by 6 or something like that. It's really a small house with a single facade next to the public library, with a strange intervention of the 60s, where they designed this very strange window. Please, no, back please. And this very strange door with a very difficult relationship with the steps. So we decided not to, in a way, recover this lost original language of the building, but we decided to underline these two points: the window that we redesigned and the door that we redesign. And of course, these small projects are the ones who give much more trouble to the architects. To this small piece, we design more than 10 different solutions, but almost the same idea. The common areas in the ground floor, the rooms in the upper floor, it's almost evident. But we, at last, you can see here the scale of the building. At last, what we did was this very simple gesture, and we introduced a new courtyard on the back in order to allow light and air to flow through the house.
Still Cavano. It's a building architects are always revisiting. It's one of the most eloquent reflection of minimum existence. And for that reason, in 2017, we decided to challenge artists, designers, and architects to design their own cabanon for Ano Zero, the Biennial of Coimbra. And we made an exhibition with that designs and models. This is our proposal. We start with the idea of using old containers, not as building itself, but as a cast. The building intended to be a vertical promenade because we are 4. So in our family, we are 4 people. So we have a room in each level and the social areas are on the ground floor, and everything is connected with this social void. Too heavy. For us, this exercise was the solution of doing a prefabricated building. It's in different contexts. It's very important. It was very important because we really would like to understand how these abstract exercise can reconnect the plot areas where they are going to be, or if they are rural or urban. And now this is our home, because this is a project that we are doing since 1996 and not finished. This is it's a work in progress. The house was built in the 17th century. I have to say that Corvo is an even small town of Miranda de Corvo. It's very, very small. We have a discussion because I say that only 50 people live there, and Carlos says, because he's an optimistic, that 100 people live there. I never seen them, but never knows. This building was, this house was built in the 17th century and refurbished in the 40s of the last century. Now is our home and our office. This is our mailbox. When we arrived in 1996, the house was not proper to live in with the comforts that all houses have, but not this one. So we start with the fireplace in the upper level, because this house didn't have a fireplace. It was a house for holidays, vacations, and a place for the books in the basement, that now is our office. And this is a stair that at the same time it's shelves for the books and connects the 2 levels. The basement was a place where agriculture stores and stables exist. And then we decide to start with the garden, because the trees take a long time to grow and we didn't have trees at all. And for us it was very strange to live in the countryside and not having trees. It's a romantic idea, but trees were important. And then we designed the garden. And now we start doing the design of the garden. Hope no patriotic architect is here to listening to us, but we design it in a very architectural way, the way we can do it. Now it has several areas. Pergola for wisteria. It's too big, that's now it's falling down. An orchard and wood, a courtyard and a watering tank. Please stay there. We recycle remains of other works that we do. We use the garden and the house as a continuous workshop and experimental place for scenographies, for other things, for exhibitions, other things that we design. But at a certain moment in 2001, the first son arrived. So we designed and built a cradle. Then another son arrived and they start growing, of course, and we need to make a garden for them, a place in the garden for them, and we decide to design and build a tree house and a hut. But the gardens also needs care, so we reuse tree pruning branches to do objects, in this case, lamps. Some work of arts that we have are in the garden, and you are going to see the last ones of Laura Vinci and Rui Chaves. Carlos is going to talk about that after. We also, these are the plans of the existing house. What exists in one of the areas, there were 2 houses. In fact, there were 3 houses and we made it 1. And because this was a house, a vacation house, everything was very small, and we need to have an area for social meetings for us, and especially open to the sun, because this house was running from the sun and was very strange for us. So we have a dining room opening to the garden that is south, and the office in the basement. These are images of the basement. We have to put it a level a little bit down, because the level was that one that you see on the ramp. And this is our office, the basement of the house. We also do furniture for the garden using old trees that remains unuseful. And this is the view of the south part of the house, the office on the basement, and the living room upstairs, connecting with the garden, but especially connecting with the sun. This place where we live, well, I imagine for someone in Central Europe, it's what I'm going to say, it's normal, but for us, having -7 degrees, it's awful, because our houses are not houses that support those difference of temperatures. And in summer we have, I don't know, 42 degrees. And this is our workshop for models that now is in the old stable. And view of our work in progress of the living room, the 2 houses. They were reconverted in 1. This courtyard is connected with the office. And the last work that we made, because we have had problems with infiltration of water, is the kitchen. And we need to do models for the carpenters to understand what we are drawing. And one of the entrances of the house.
We are there for 25 years, as we told you. So as architects who works a lot with models, you can imagine the number of models that we did in 25 years. So we don't have any space to put the models. We start to put it on the attic. They start to be destroyed because sometimes the rain goes there and the cats goes there and destroy the models. So we decide we need a new space to put the models. And we have a kind of ruin in front of our house. And ruins are for the architects something very, it's a kind of, there's a kind of hope in a ruin. And in this kind of context, having a ruin in front of our house, it can be also a problem. If someone takes care of this ruin, can destroy the place where you live. So for many reasons, please, for many reasons, we decide to buy this ruin and put there our archive, especially our models. But at the same time, we thought about a much more ambitious project. So as Désirée told you, we have this connection with contemporary art. We run the Coimbra Biennial, and we have been buying some models, and the artists sometimes give it to us. But we have especially one that we really like. It's a sculpture from Alberto Carneiro. Alberto Carneiro is a very well-known Portuguese sculptor, one of the most important sculptors of the second half of the century. And he recently died, but we did something with him in the biennial, and he decided to almost offer us this beautiful sculpture made with bamboo. So we decided to construct a pavilion in our garden to put this sculpture there. And with this idea, it's a kind of Louis Kahn building, as you can see, made in rammed earth. There are two cubes connected to each other, one with the sculpture of Alberto Carneiro, and the other one we would like to invite artists to deal with this subject. And we really would like to do this, and we are now doing this with the schools of the region. We talked about the directors, and what we really would like to develop, it's a kind of a center to literacy, special illiteracy, we can say like this. Yes, the idea, because we architects have always this problem, because we invest everything, but in fact the basis is not solved. People don't even understand what we do. So we decided in this small scale that we have, we can in a way fight a little bit against this, creating this center to promote special illiteracy and of course the sensibilization for nature with art.
Not special, space.
Space. Thank you, my English. And so we are really engaged in this sculpture pavilion in the garden, and in these two houses where we want to put our archive that people, if they want, can use or see or whatever. And in the top of this building, in fact, we buy another one now, a small one. We'd like to do a kind of an apartment. Please, next. That on the top left is our house, and this is what we bought recently. And we really would like to do also a library with our books. We'd like to offer our books of architecture and art to the people and build this library on the main building for people to use. We don't know if we can do that, but we are really focused on that. Please, next.
We have a lot of students, especially working with us, especially in summertime. And this idea of having a library open to those who want starts with them asking us, can we come here every time we need a book that we don't have at library, or it's not so easy to have it? And we say, well, of course, but this starts growing in our mind because it was a request.
Next, please. Here you can see the plans. So on the ground level, the archive connected with the library. On the upper level, this apartment. All the programs is organized around these two small courtyards. Next, please. A section where you can see exactly the library and the two courtyards.
Can I say
Yes, of
something?
course.
We have to make these drawings are for us, but especially for convince the municipality, because it's very strange for them to see a building that is going to have a new program that is not so well regular for them, and so we have to convince them that is going, and especially the form, the language. It's strange, but we have to do a lot more work than usually the other designers have to do to convince them that this could be a good solution.
And not only the town hall, but also the sponsors that we need to buy to build this building, as you can imagine. Next, please. And last, the other small house, a really, really small house that also works as a kind of vertical promenade. But in fact, what we really would like to do is revisiting Paleo-Christian churches. We are building this building around the central void, and with this revisited I was telling to you, these Paleo-Christian churches and their ability to manipulate small spaces. Thank you.
Thank you.
Idea of using the house for experimenting, which is something that the architects really enjoy doing, you know, just experimenting it, making our home the place where we can try new things that the others don't buy it before we prove that it can work. So, as I said before, for us, it's very, very important that here architects in the technical significance of the word. And I think we should maybe use this opportunity to ask some questions. So who would like to open? Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you both. I want to share with you that my mom is from Lausanne, so it's very nearby.
We are neighbors.
Yes, so suburban neighbors. And for different reasons, I haven't go there for many years, for the last 15 years, to put a period of time. So it's the period that you have been working there. So I'm very curious to go, and we have shadow in the next months, and I will go for sure to Miranda do Corvo. What I want to share that I remember from my childhood is exactly that my grandmother's house and the house of my family were most of them big houses with small windows. That is what I remember of that period, and as well the inexistence of the public space. So unless the main square, what I remember of the coffees, the market, were very small and close. I don't know if the weather in the winter, but the people were almost joined in the small. So I'm very curious, and I really believe that you could change this way of living the public space. And I can imagine the hard work that you have done to convince not only the city hall, but the neighborhoods, the citizens of this small village, because what I could remember, they are very conservative in the way of thinking. So I'm really, really curious to go again and to see not only what you can change regarding the architecture, but even more the public space and the way that they live there. So, and I believe that you can do it. So if you can share, first of all, congratulations of your work. And if you can share what was this experience of go to the small village and deal with this kind of way of thinking that is very different of what you are doing without changing the essential of the architecture and also the citizens, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. What to say? It was being there for 25 years. Now it seems, well, it seems that we have achieved something. I don't know if it's good or not, but we achieved something and we are doing something. But we are only doing public work. We only start doing public work in 2008 with the market. And that happened because the mayor, Fatima Ramos, was very curious about us because we were a little bit ovnis there, UFOs, sorry, UFOs. But because of that, the family of Carlos, part of the family of Carlos lived there, not for a long time, but they were well known there. And we were strangers, so it was easy when we arrived. We are not the guys who was born there and then go out and then return and think they are better than the others. No, we did not belong there, and that's good. Well, you never belong there because of that, but they don't say to you, you are not one of us. It's okay. So, and with that work of the market, and that work was very hard and tough. The contact with the sellers, because supposedly one of them was a representative of the others, but it was a mess because he only represented his interests or her interests, and it was a mess in the opening day because everything was not the way they wanted, and it was a very difficult time for us to deal with that. Thank God Carlos is very calm and reflexive and has a voice that people like to listening. I was so furious and, well, I had to run away because if I talk, I'm sure that it's going to be very, 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 very bad. But thank God he managed to work with them. And after, with time and the mayor saying, okay, we have to do rehearsals again with everybody. And when I say everybody, is everybody. When, well, we achieved something. And at that moment, they believed that that building belonged to them. After that, it was easy, but only after that. I said in 2010. Before that, we work most of the time we didn't show things that we do in Porto and Lisbon and Coimbra in the cities, because we want to talk about what is to be in a place where everything, well, these places were very beautiful, they are not, because the most of persons don't have architectural culture, don't have good reference, or when they have, they import that models and try to put it there, and they are not connected with that territory. So it's a mess. And it's funny that you said that those houses were with small houses, no public space, but they were okay because the streets were not destroyed. We have a unity. Now we have blocks of houses, not blocks. We have houses, isolated houses, with the model of suburb houses that doesn't make sense there. So the idea of not having public space, it's even worse. So to slowly start changing and saying what is important is to have a place where we can meet, and then slowly, very slowly, it's too slowly, but it's what we have. We are changing, and for us it's very important that at this moment some students of the schools around are talking about being architects, artists, and we have a friend of our son has a dog. The dog name is Caesar. This is something. It's a beginning. So we are full of hope.
It's a question of being patient and believing in what you are doing. It's only that. If you believe in what you are doing, you are available to roll the stone up and down the hill as Sisyphus did. And there's nothing heroic about this. You are in a place, you believe in what you are doing, and you believe you can change things, at least at the distance of your arm extended. And this can be a lot. Let me tell you, the benches that we showed to you, these benches on the square, we did this 15 years ago, but the benches, we put them there 2 weeks ago, insisting, and then they cannot even hear me anymore. So let's put the benches, because this guy will continue to insist until we put the benches there. And we did. It's as simple as this. You believe or do not believe, and you insist or you quit. And we believe that we are doing something there.
You have to believe in your work, but you have to do a good work also, because now that is the proof is that the people are accepting and changing naturally. Because you could believe, but if the work wasn't good after 6 or 10 years, not be used or as you expect. So you believe. I hope you still keep to believe. And I have to say that more or adding, you have a great work. Thank you.
But it's in fact it's. I was saying something I forgot. Oh, I will remember after.
Would you call your architecture being part of critical regionalism? Is that a good term, or do you think no?
Well, even Kenneth Frampton, the one who proposed,
it comes from Solis and Lefebvre,
yes,
but Frampton.
Yes, I really appreciate the term. Let me tell you. But even Frampton recognized that there's some. It's not a term good enough to solve all the complexity of contemporary architecture, even this architecture dealing with traditional issues. But in a way, if you ask me in the 60s and the 70s, I would say yes. But in the nowadays, maybe it's a little bit different than this, at least a little bit more complex than that. But thank you. It's a good reference. Caesar was look,
It's a
critical
huge responsibility.
Now, what I was saying, it's also important. Now I remember. In fact, for some reasons, people not from there, but architects, critics, start to notice that we are doing something there. And there's a kind of recognition about this. And then you have the coming back. If they start to hear that someone that they believe it's okay, say you are doing something good, maybe we can use them for us. And this was in fact something that happened.
Helped.
Yes,
Yes.
with this woman, this mayor, it was precisely like that. She heard that we win some competitions, win some prizes. So maybe these guys can be useful for us. I don't think this is a bad thing. But on the opposite, yes, it's how it works. Yes.
For instance, for us, it would be a challenge, really a challenge, and I'm dying for doing that, to do a collective building for housing, because a lot of collective buildings, houses are blocks, are being building, especially in that territory, because this is a suburb of Coimbra, and they are lousy, really, really bad. And I think it could be an opportunity for the constructors to see that it's possible to do better, not spending so much money as they think they are going to spend, and making good works of architecture, and especially because this is the main problem of these buildings, the connections that they have with the floor, with the public, with the land, with the public areas, because they are awful, they cut, and this is the main problem, but we are not there yet.
Very important two topics that you approach in this conference. First is that we need public space in order to have urbanity. Yes. So this is, I think, it's very, very, very important to to highlight this idea. And of course, in these small towns, sometimes we don't have these public spaces, and that's why people are so inside the houses and so, in a way, so lonely. And we think of this Portugal as a lonely place, with people being very lonely in their own houses, very houses without openings to the open space, to the public space. So this, I think, it's a very, very important idea. And then all the work you do related with these people with mental illness. I think it's also a very interesting program that we in the city, these people, they are putting in this kind of institutions. Yes. Outside the, and the elder public, also. The elderly also, yes, exactly. Outside the public view, in a way. So they started to not be a reality in our old. And the way you show us the work we are doing with these houses and these institutions, and the way you deal with the spaces, and the way you identify these people and give them names, the room of the specific person has an identity. I found it quite interesting in the days we are living, because just think of standards or the models that we can apply to everywhere, and then you show us a different path. So I think I found it very, very important for us that we are dealing with other kind of suburbia, a mass housing suburbia, dense suburbia, and a suburbia that give a bad name to the architects, but it was built by architects. we have to face it. But what I find interesting, it's because we bring to us some subjects and some that we are not so used to look at. And finally, what I also think it's quite important for us who are architects, even if you are dealing with research, it's that architecture needs time. And we tend to forget that. Architects need the time, it's the most important thing in architecture. It's completely, when sometimes during classes we say to our students that there are no innovation in architecture. And everybody, just look at that saying what is this old lady is saying to us, it's no innovation, but you want to do something new or something, even the idea of new in architecture, it's an old idea. So it's, and time, it's a very, very important key word for us. And of course, you needed your own time to change things, to achieve things, to be recognized by the community, that your work could be a difference, could make a difference in the community. I found it's quite important, and sometimes we forgot that. We forgot how we can, that we need time to be recognized, that we need time to work with as a team with the community. Of course, what Carlos was saying, that being recognized by the other colleagues, it's important. Maybe people look at us in a different way because we just won a prize or something like that. But I think it's much more important in a long term, I would say, in a long term, not nowadays, but in the long term, would be much more, it's much more important, this work with the community, this idea that architecture can really change things. And in the 60s, this wasn't a kind of utopia, and all the architects believed that they could change the way people live just by using the pencil, by using the design. And then they realized that it was not so easy to change reality just for drawing new cities and new spaces. So this small scale, it's more hard in a way, but it's more maybe in the future be much more interesting. So that's, I really wanted to say this public because I think it was very important, your contribution for us and for the reflection that we are going to do, I expect, beginning tomorrow. But I really wanted to highlight your contribution in these terms, the idea of how can you get urbanity without public space, it's impossible. The idea that there are people like with mental issues, for instance, that we need the same things that we need. They need social spaces, they need to open air, they need to have an identity. And then this idea of working with the community for a long term. So thank you very much once more for that.
Just want to say, but
to say that.
I remember you were saying that, and I remember an episode about in the marketplace where Carlos were talking about the benches, but you see the huge trees, pine trees that are there, and all our energy was put in keeping those trees because they wanted, this is a new work, new square, so we have to take off the pine trees, they are huge, amazing, and put palm trees. And we said, no, please, let's talk sense, let's make sense with this. These trees have a lot, they are huge, they are amazing, a lot of birds live here, they are here for, I don't know, almost 100 years. We cannot take them off and put palm trees because it doesn't make sense. And this was our huge effort with them, with the community around to keep
and you
the
have to
trees.
be available to talk with them. Always, always, yes.
Sometimes these people, when they won't talk.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, that's it, that's it. That's, yes. Yes, yes, of course, of course. Yes.
And you
always,
have to show
always, yes,
examples. You have
yes.
to show examples.
And you have to be always calm and explain to them. And
Yes. Yes.
wow, maybe sometimes. Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Yes. That's it.
Okay, so so maybe we
Finish.
was a long day, first day. Maybe we can give an applause now. Once more, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
It
This
was a
was, this
pleasure.
was very informal. I'm always like this
No,
because I
we
cannot be
also
formal,
like
so
this.
thank you very much.
Informative.
And so see you for everybody, see you tomorrow, I hope, 9 o'clock.